Of the arts in contemporary Philippines, film has the broadest audience. This explains the strengths and weaknesses of motion pictures as a Filipino art form. So that it can be marketed with efficiency, film tries to reduce its audience to the lowest common denominator. It is believed that such an audience can grasp only what is obvious and simplistic.
Labis-labis ng kakaluluan mo. Gusto mo ipahalikin pa kita muna sa lupa para maipakilala ko sina pantay-pantay ang bawat nilikha. Darna! Kuno!
Dahilan sa mga naganap dito po sa naturang lugar. Samantala sa kasalukuyan po mga kaibigan ng mga kagawad ng pulisya ay sinisikap na hadlangan ang mga tao, mga kagawad ng media na nagnanais na makalapit dito po sa naturang area at atin pong nakikita sa mga sandali.
When film is handled with insight and sensitivity, however, its powers cannot be equaled by any other art form.
Wala.
It can portray an entire society acting in concert. It can also involve us in an individual's joy and pain.
Huwag ka lalapit. Huwag ka lalapit.
Filipino artists have been making movies for almost 70 years now. The film industry, however, began with the introduction of film shorts by foreign businessmen in the decade beginning with the year 1897. These films gave glimpses of everyday life as well as historic events. In 1912, two American businessmen made the first feature films in the Philippines. Both of them capitalized on the life and death of national hero Jose Rizal to make their products saleable to Filipino audiences. One of the first Filipinos to make movies was a photographer named Jose Nepomuceno. His first film, made at the turn of the 1920s, was The Lagang Bukid, a highly acclaimed musical play by Hermogenes Ilagan and Leon Ignacio. In the early years of Filipino filmmaking, Hollywood provided the examples from which local directors learned. Thus, the genre and trends in the local industry were set by American feature film. Working with outmoded equipment and hampered by limited budgets, Filipino directors found it impossible to compete against the products of Hollywood. On the basic level of technical polish, local products inevitably suffered in comparison. They were up against products of a giant industry reaching out to a worldwide audience.
Bawat buhay ay may kasaysayan, tulad ng pinangyarihan nang tayo'y magtanaw. Takot lamang ay di mo pakinggan, ngunit ang katotohanan kita'y minamahal. lamang. Bawat masdang ko'y karigtan, dulot ay sadyang kaligayahan na nagbuhat sa iyo, buhay niya ring buhay.
Filipino movies, however, had one advantage over foreign movies. They drew their narratives and themes from Philippine society. The works of early directors portrayed Philippine situations from everyday life, as well as Philippine history. In addition, they were in a language the vast majority in the Philippines could understand. Traditional theater forms provided early films with character types, twists in the plot, familiar themes, and conventions in acting. The zarzuela yielded many romantic and comic characters for plots spiced up with songs and happy endings.
Buksan mo ang bintana, alawin mo't kahabagan, ang sa'yo'y nagmamahal. Kung sakali magsalan, yamat pangarap, may isang sumpang wagas ang aking pag
Film melodrama inherited from Sinacolo, characters like the Virgin as the all-suffering mother,
And I'm a flame.
Mary Magdalene as the prostitute with the golden heart,
That only your cheeks can put out the fire.
Judas, the unmitigated villain, and of course, Jesus as the savior of societies under threat and redeemer of those who have gone wrong.
Tandaan nyo, sa oras na may nangyari dito sa bata, babalikan kayo!
To this day, the Commedia continues to inspire action movies in which men and women engage in life and death combat between the good and the bad. Philippine literature has also been a rich source of subject matters and themes. Film versions of Rizal's Noli Me Tangere familiarized a broad audience with vignettes of resistance and betrayal when Filipinos were demanding reforms from Spain. On film, Florante at Laura by Francisco Baltazar made the jealous lover and the ever-faithful lady love popular characters. These are the characters around whom many contemporary movies continue to revolve.
Nananalig ikaw ay magbabalik. Umasa kang daratnan mo rin akong naghihintay. Hanggang sa hindi mo na isusoli sa akin yung kwintas na yan.
Other literary sources were contemporary novels that appeared in popular weekly magazines. In many instances, the author of the novel served as a selling point of the movie. Philippine folklore has yielded tales that have been used for comedies with social comments.
Kanilin, wala ba tayo magagawang paraan upang mapababa ang halaga ng bigas? Wala na po. Mahal na sultan. Sagad na po ang presyo. Ano naman ang naririnig mo sa labas tungkol sa akin? Mga bagay na hindi mabuti. Wala po. Mahal na sultan. Walang-wala. Absolutamente nada. Maraming salamat. Makaalis ka na. Nakita mo na, Juan. Ang sultan ay hindi Diyos. Ay bakit po ninyo hindi palitan yung mga ministrong yan? Mga inutil. Yung isa ay iling na iling. May tango ng tango para makadisusi, di kwerdas. Malaki na itulong sa akin yung mga tao yan nung nakaraang eleksyon. Kaya sila hindi ko maaaring basta alisin. Ay kung katulad po naman ito, ang taong bayan ang napiperwisyo. Hindi tuloy nyo nalalaman kung anong talaga nangyayari. Kaya naman ako'y umaasa sa mga taong tapat na katulad mo. Mabuti po kung may mga taong tapat na katulad mo, ilan lang kami.
In spite of being the underdog to Hollywood, the local film industry survived because the larger portion of the Filipino audience was not equipped to appreciate films in English. Thus, shortly before the outbreak of the Pacific War, no less than 6 active film companies were making movies for that audience. Altogether, the companies were making more than 50 movies annually. In less than 20 years of existence, from 1919, the industry was able to build a firmament of stars whose glitter and glamour were to establish moviegoing as a national pastime among Filipinos. Late in 1941, the industry suffered a big setback when the Pacific War brought the Japanese to the Philippines. Film equipment was commandeered by the invaders for their own propaganda purposes. Some filmmakers were recruited into the invaders' propaganda units. When movie making ground to a halt, stage shows featuring big-name stars took over the movie houses in Manila. These kept audiences from forgetting their favorite stars. The ruins of war were still being cleared, but the film industry in 1946 was already producing stories about invaders and their collaborators who met their comeuppance from people they had oppressed.
Sa hitag ng ating tahi, dapat may pagwain. Di natin susunod ang yurakan ng ating kalayaan. Pilipinas, bayan kong mahal, sa'yo alay ang aming buhay. Ayon na sa tingkang, mga anak bayan, sa hisag ng ating tahi, dapat may pagwain. Di natin susunod ang yurakan ng ating kalayaan. Pilipinas, bayan kong mahal, sa'yo alay.
In the decade of the 1950s, the film industry began turning out its first harvest of distinguished films. At this time, the industry operated under the studio system. There were 3 major studios, and each one had its own set of stars and directors, each one engaged in long-range planning with movie projects lined up for the entire year. The system assured moviegoers a variety of fare during the year, allowing stars and directors more room for their skills and talents to develop.
Sila tayo ngayon. Ang puti, parang bulak, magandang maganda.
The institution of awards during the 1950s stimulated consciousness of film as art.
Wala akong nakikita.
Meron, Tisa. Ayun. Ayun ang iyong kahapon. Masaya't maganda. Nakikita mo ba? Nakikita mo ba?
Oo. Ang aking kahapon. Maganda. Masaya.
Ano pa, Tisa? Ano pa ang iyong nakikita?
Ay, naku. May tugtugan.
First, the Manila Times Publishing Company set up the Maria Clara Awards in 1950. 2 years later, the Farmers Award was founded, and it has since been accepted by the industry as the most popular award-giving body in the country.
Para niyo ng awa. Aba! At nahiya pa itong bruha para malaman ninyong lahat. Itong aking anak ay sumama sa lalaki. Sa kanyang kalagoy upang ako'y pagigantihan lamang. Ginawa mo na lahat ng kabutihan. Ginantihan ka pa ng kasamaan. Bakit hindi ka nga naman nakapatay ng tao? Day!
Across the years will come to me. Though my world will go on, in my heart forever lies just the echo of a song.
Honors won by Filipino films at the Asian Film Festival established for the Philippines a reputation of being an important Asian filmmaking center. It was here that filmmakers Gerardo de Leon, Lamberto V. Avellana, and Gregorio Fernandez gave notice to the world that the Filipino film had come of age. Social unrest was on the rise in the 1960s. Nationalist youth activists were calling for structural changes in Philippine society. The studios were phasing out, and a new generation of film producers were coming in. Independent producers made movies on a per-project basis. Under their system, playing it safe was the guiding rule, and exploitation films was the safest way of ensuring a quick return on one's investment. Bomba was actually melodrama heavily laced with sex. Bomba films, with their disdain for conventional society and establishment values, seemed to echo the cry in the streets for social changes. Action movies about cowboy and secret agents depicted a society ravaged by criminality and corruption, searching for heroes who would rid the community of hated warlords, avaricious bureaucrats, and money-crazed businessmen. Idol movies were youth films that capitalized on the fanaticism of movie fans. At a time when adults seemed unable to merit love and respect, idol movies reflected young people's search for role models with which they could identify. Slapstick comedies featured social misfits and outcasts. As though to chide those claiming to represent normal people, they easily outwit their tormentors.
Anything you want? Coca-Cola, cerveza negra, limonada, purong ka.
Talagang malala ng sira ng ulo mo ah. Ayaw pang lumabas to kung hindi Glory ang tawag sa kanya. Baka matuktukan ko yung ulo mo dyan, nakita mo.
At bakit? Kaya ganda-ganda pagingin ka ng Glory. Glory of the sunshine. Glory of the flowers. Ay, nakakakiliti. Glory of the everlasting sunset. Ay, naku, napaka-romantikong pakinggan sa bambanantenga kung nananabik sa pag-ibig.
A perennial form in the industry is the movie featuring popular child stars in comic or melodramatic situations. The child is an outsider to adult society. Its glorification was another way of denouncing adult corruption and stupidity. An authoritarian government, ruling by martial law, was the establishment's response to social unrest.
Ang martial law nakabuti sa taong bayan. Tama o mali? Pindot! Ledesma.
Ano sagutin mo, Ronnie?
Ang martial law nakabuti sa taong bayan. Mali.
Ronnie? Ronnie, sagutin mo, Ronnie.
Pindot!
Ronnie, please sagutin mo, Ronnie. Ronnie, please sagutin mo, Ronnie.
Pindutin mo!
Ronnie, sagutin mo, Ronnie! Ronnie, please sagutin mo! Ronnie! Ronnie, please sagutin mo, Ronnie!
Bumalik ka rito!
Ayoko.
Bumalik ka rito!
Ayoko.
Ayaw mo?
Ayoko.
Ayaw mo?
Ayoko. Ayoko.
Sige, sige, papakupin niyo rin!
Ayoko. Ayoko! 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 Biniwan niyo ako! Ba't ako paubuhin yan? Biniwan ako ng kwenta! Biniwan ako! Masakit yan! Biniwan niyo ako! Masakit yan! Ako na lang! Ayoko! 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 Masakit yan na! Masakit yan na! Masakit yan na!
Tama na, pare.
The Marcos regime required of producers a finished screenplay before filming could be started. Creative writers were hired by producers to come up with the needed scripts. Thus did a scriptwriter begin to gain recognition as an essential part of the creative staff in filmmaking.
I love you, Manila! Kahit ano ka pa man! Bata, matanda, pabaho, pangit, babae, lalaki, baka, o tomboy!
Working with young, literate screenplay writers, the new directors of the industry occasioned the emergence of a Filipino new cinema in the decade of the 1970s. With Eddie Romero as an elder master from a previous generation, Lino Broca, Ishmael Bernal, and Celso Ad Castillo composed a special generation of filmmakers whose movies featured issues and problems crying out for attention from Filipino artists.
Walang kikilot! Taas ang kamay!
The creative ferment, started by the Filipino new cinema, was assured some kind of perpetuation by a younger generation. These filmmakers had their start in the industry only in the late 1970s, but their best work so far attest to their artistic maturity. Filipino filmmakers in Cannes, London, and other European film centers have endowed local movies with a certain degree of intellectual respectability. This has attracted students and young professionals and their families, adding a dynamic sector to the crowd that had always been disparaged as an uncultured audience. Their presence in the consciousness of the new filmmakers has made possible more quality pictures.
Walang himala! Ang himala ay nasa puso ng tao! Nasa puso nating lahat! Tayo ang gumagawa ng himala! Tayo ang gumagawa ng mga sumpa ng mga Diyos! Hindi totoong buntis ako dahil sa himala. Hindi totoong nagpakita sa akin ng mahal na birhen. Walang himala. Hindi totoong may himala. Tayo ang gumagawa ng himala. Tayo ang gumagawa ng mga sumpa sa mga Diyos. Walang himala.
Ilang beses kong narinig. Ilang beses akong sinabihan at pinaalalahanan na ako isang madre lamang. Isang madring hindi dapat makialam sa mga bagay na wala siyang nalalaman. Pero una sa lahat, ako isang tao. Ako isang Kristiyano. At bilang isang Kristiyano, alam ko at alam nating lahat na tayo ay nasa tama. Na tama ang ating ginagawa. Na tama ang ating ipinaglalaban. At kung naririto lamang si Kristo, natitiyak kong kasama natin siya sa pakikibakang ito. Katarungan para kay Kadasyo!
The audience has changed, and fresh talent has emerged. The chieftains of the industry, however, have remained unduly cautious, guarding their investments and continuing to assume that the consumers for their products have not changed. Thus, mainstream cinema in the Philippines continues to thrive on cliches and formulas originating in the primeval times of local filmmaking.
Napansin niyo ba ang kanyang paa? Tumbalan? Oo. Anong ibig sabihin yan? Ayon sa matatanda, ang bata raw na may banat ay nagbibigay ng malaking swerte at kaligayahan sa kanyang mga magulang. Magkatotoo sana yan.
Outside of the industry, talented young filmmakers have held out against the crass commercialism of mainstream cinema. Independent filmmakers are not subject to the whims and dictates of commercial movie producers. They are free to explore all types of subject matter and approaches not available to fellow artists working within the industry. For the meantime, they have a limited audience for their works. However, they earn their honors at prestigious festivals away from home. Many factors have repressed the vitality of the creative forces in the Philippine film industry. However, Poverty, the assertion of human rights, the struggle for democratic change, the revaluation of cultural identity, these intrude upon the consciousness of the filmmakers. Consequently, even the most vigilant producer cannot permanently shut out social realities from the products of the industry.
Kailan nangyari ito?
Kagabi lang ho, wala na silang lahat.
Pati ba mga Pilipino?
Wala na po silang lahat eh.
Eh kayo, ano ba kayo?
Tagrito lang po kami. Diyan lang po kami nakatira.
Eh, hindi ba kayo Pilipino?
Ho? Tiga-marulas ho kami. Wala ho naman dayuhan dito.
Tandaan niyo ito ah. Pilipino rin kayo.
Filipino new cinema consists of products created under conditions almost prohibitive of artistic quality. As works of commercial film art, they have nonetheless sharpened the consciousness of audiences and stirred their social concern. Such films allow Filipinos to see themselves and their society, reminding them of what they were and could be.